Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort.
And I'm Dalton Gentry. God damn it. Every week now.
Last week you had it.
I know, but I got that cusp. This is where you say, and this is this. Anyway, this is Adrian Reads Harry Potter. Harry Potter.
This is your series.
A lot of people have been saying recently, like, you should make Dalton read something he doesn't like. I'm like, please see every other book we do. It's fine. Every now and then I get one that I enjoy.
What do you mean? We've been reading stuff that we've both picked lately.
It's been good lately. It's been good. But look back a little bit.
Can we do a series?
We'll talk about it.
It wouldn't be much reading, just a poem a week.
We'll talk about it. We're
Real
not
Emily Dickinson.
reading through Emily Dickinson every day. No.
It'd be a 1,776-part series.
My God. That's worse than this.
No.
Anyway, this is Adrian Reads Harry Potter. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. This is chapters 23 and 24. I think we got a lot of good stuff going on this week.
Oh, do you?
I do. I think this is really moving the plot forward. I like to get your opinions on things. But this is chapter 23, Horcruxes, and 24, Sectum Sempra.
Both of those words make me a little uncomfortable.
Okay.
Allow me to screw up the audio real quick.
I'm sure everyone appreciates that.
Yeah.
Let me give me a brief rundown here.
Necklace clicking against the...
Is my necklace good and tucked today? Let me make sure, as I screw up the audio a little bit. This is a terrible start to this video. Anyway, Horcruxes. We discovered through the memory that Harry gained from Slughorn that Slughorn educated Voldemort about Horcruxes, which are basically magical items that hold portions of the soul to make the creator of these items immortal. A few have been destroyed already, and Dumbledore is allowing Harry to join him on the next journey to destroy the next. And chapter 24, Sectum Sempra, Harry confronts Malfoy in Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. We find out Malfoy's the boy that's been crying in there, and he basically cuts him good with a spell called Sectum Sempra that he learned from the Half-Blood Prince. Snape then saves Malfoy. Harry receives detention for attempted murder, but it's all right, because Gryffindor wins the house.
Just a bloody nose. Yeah. It's just a bloody nose.
Just no big deal. Just cut him good.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Did we get how they won the House Cup?
Well, Harry couldn't go.
Yeah,
so we get no account of the Quidditch game, but Ginny filled in for his position.
So she probably caught the snitch, right? Almost.
That would be the assumption, absolutely. But they won enough that, Gryffindor wins again, everything's fine. Harry is now dispendable.
Expendable.
Expendable.
Yeah.
Same thing.
It's another one of the Daltonisms.
Leave me alone.
We need to make a Daltonish dictionary.
I've been thinking about making an animated movie called Expendable Me. Anyway, anything you want to talk about with these two chapters here before I kind of just ramble on a little bit?
Is Harry's scar one of the Horcruxes?
I don't know. We'll get there when we get there.
Look me in the eyes.
I don't know.
Is Harry's scar one of the Horcruxes?
Harry's scar is not one of the Horcruxes. No.
Okay, so... Okay.
But I think you're picking up on some things here.
Yeah.
So
pretty heavy-handed there.
You think
pretty
so?
Heavy-handed. Yeah,
okay.
For a little bit. If it's Harry Potter that is a Horcrux, it's very heavy-handed in that little moment, because we jump straight from Harry Potter asking what a Horcrux is. They get the story. Well, the ring was one, and what else was one? The diary was one. Well, could it be an animal? It could be an animal, but you wouldn't want to put your soul into something that might live a shorter life than you. Well, what's going to live a longer life than you? Perhaps if you die, a baby that's born today, and then it jumps straight to something else happens right after that. I think they go in straight from there. Dumbledore starts talking about how powerful and special Harry is.
Yes.
So it's like, well, very heavy-handed if this is what's going on.
Well, if you haven't got the hint already, this is an important chapter because the idea of Horcruxes and hunting them down and defeating Voldemort is basically going to be our theme for the remainder of this series.
It has covertly been our theme for the first 6 books.
It has, which
books.
I think is actually well done. This is something she's been working through for 6 books now. We've seen bits and pieces of it here and there with the diary, with the ring that was just the beginning of this book here. But it wasn't until at this point she revealed the significance behind them. So I do think, honestly, that's really well done. I mean, you knew they were there, you knew they were important, but you didn't quite know why. And now it's all been tied together.
Well,
and
the
been
ring
revealed.
didn't pop up until this book.
Until this book. But all the way back to the second book was the first
Right.
Horcrux.
But it was never called a Horcrux, was it?
It was not.
So it might have just been a plot point that later she decided, Oh, you know what we could do?
That's not a bad idea. It's not. I actually tweeted old J.K. this week.
Did you?
Yeah, it was the 20th anniversary, I believe it was, of Harry Potter, and she wanted to thank American fans for making everything great and dandy, and I'd give her old tweet from the strip cover lit account and be like, hey, what you think about this? No response. Didn't expect one. But anyway, Horcruxes, I think, are an interesting thing here and are going to be our theme moving forward.
So one thing on that, they keep talking about the fact that 7 is a very special magical number.
I did write that down. I figured you'd want to play with that.
Well, I don't know why bring it up if several have already been destroyed.
Okay.
So he's not the strongest he's ever been, right?
No, but he did create 7 to obtain that level of strength at one point. But obviously some have faded out, as would be expected. That's why he wanted to make 7. He wanted to make multiples. We do get a scene between him and Slughorn where he says, could I do it more than one? Or could a wizard do it more than once? How about 7? Which, Slughorn is absolutely repulsed because doing it once is just bad enough. But 7 times, Tom. Merlin's beard. How dare you?
Merlin's beard, what's that from?
Merlin's beard?
Yeah.
It's from Harry Potter.
Is it from this?
Yes.
Okay.
And, Merlin, obviously, a good tie-in there. I think that's all right. Little Arthurian legend.
Okay.
But anyway, we have the idea of the magic of 7 Horcruxes, and these are going to be 7 items of power. This would explain why we've been talking about Voldemort's fascination with these possible items from the Hogwarts founders, and the idea of splitting your soul, which I think is interesting, because it goes into the question of what is the soul. And why is it so bad to sacrifice your soul? If we want to look at a religious context, you should absolutely not sacrifice your soul if there is an afterlife.
Yeah.
And I think this wholeheartedly points to a wizard belief in some form of afterlife.
Right.
Otherwise, what's the big deal? It's just a soul. You're not using it. So I think there's a lot that could be played with on that there. So, I don't know. I think we got a little bit more to go off of this week.
Yeah, I wonder a lot about the number 7. Obviously, that is at least a Christian thing. I don't know if there is a Judeo value to the number 7, or if there is an Islamic value placed on the number 7. But in Christianity, there certainly is one. Mm-hmm. So I wonder if that is, I don't know. For an author who has claimed so heavily to be inclusive, the whole Christmas thing that we talked about, the whole lack of representation that we've talked about, if we are then again going straight away into Christianity or Christian symbolism as opposed to symbolism abroad, especially with something such as numerology. Numerology has a vast history, and there are many things that can be drawn upon. And when you're talking about, so all of the spells have Latinate or at least Latinate sounding presentations, right? Why not draw upon the larger canon of at least Western literature?
Okay. Interesting question there.
I do think that, so I think that 7 has pagan values as well.
Okay. We may have to do a little research into the idea of 7 and what it means to different cultures here, because it is interesting. J.K. has created a magical world that is very much embedded in our real world.
Right.
But she never definitively says, well, the wizards obviously have Christian values or Islamic values or anything. They do celebrate Christmas. Yes. We have the idea of a soul being important to one's body, one's self. So there are little hints along the way, but no real push towards that.
Well, we've got a lot of real pushes towards it. We have no actual being beaten over the head with it.
Okay.
But you've got the snakes thing, you've got the 7 thing, you've got the fact that Diddly Door looks like every representation of God that was ever painted with Christian values.
I just want you to hang on to that for a little bit.
Hang on to what?
That idea of a Christian symbolic representation of God. Because, oh baby, it's coming. Man. We're going to get there.
All right.
We're going to get there. And I want to say that is, it's later on. I was going to hope it was coming soon, but no, we got a ways to go. We do.
We've always got a ways to go.
We've always got a ways to go with Harry Potter. Isn't it wonderful?
No.
So you had the thought here that maybe Harry's scar could be one of the Horcrux. Any idea of any other possible, just playing around with things, what might be a Horcrux that we have maybe missed?
No, I wonder if in the... I wonder if Harry's book is a Horcrux from whoever the Half-Blood Prince is.
Okay.
But also the Room of
Requirement?
I wonder if Tom is in there speaking with a Horcrux. Because we've seen that Horcruxes can be taken onto campus and manifest on campus.
Okay.
Even if Moldavort would have problems doing so.
Okay.
So I wonder if that's what's going on in there.
Harry. Dumbledore did agree that, on this next adventure to get this next Horcrux, Harry can come along, tag along with me. Any ideas where that's going, what they're going to be looking for, how it's going to play out?
No.
No educated guesses, swings in the dark?
Room of Requirement?
Room of Requirement, maybe?
No, I have no idea.
Okay.
I imagine that they're going to end up being in the climactic end of both Drago and Snape.
Okay.
As well.
Actually, I believe we are going to get to that next week. As soon as next week, we are going to figure that out, which next week's going to be a good week as well. Those chapters there, when this book came out, that is what just set this book on fire. And that built the anticipation for the next book, just these next couple chapters.
There's 6 chapters left, I believe, right?
Okay. Well, you're going to have the obvious, your wrap-up chapter for Harry Potter.
Right.
So you basically have 5 chapters of meat left.
Okay.
And I'm telling you, these next 2, whoa, they're big.
I would rather have 5 chapters of Meatloaf.
5 chapters of Meatloaf?
You might have Fight Club in there. You might have Rocky Horror Picture Show in there. Lots of stuff you could have in there that is compelling, that is interesting to the old Adrian Meister.
Okay. But I do think it's very interesting, and I think you might actually find some enjoyment in those next chapters. We're going to get some dark stuff going on here. It's going to be a fun ride, I believe.
We actually end up getting in a subdued Snape.
Okay.
He is not the hellfire and brimstone individual that one would have expected him to be after Dragon got his nose slashed open.
Okay. Well, I would like to point out with this one here, I think it's a little cheesy. Because basically Harry just pulled out a switchblade and cut him. And he cut him bad.
Yeah.
And Snape basically shows up and, stitches his wounds together and be like, young man, detention. How dare you try to kill this student? Well, bad enough that even Moaning Myrtle starts screaming, murder, murder.
Yeah, but when you were looking at the respectable house traits in Slytherin, Dragon starting a fight with Harold, and Harold saying, all right, you can start it, but I'm going to end it. That would be something that the old snapper would come in and say, okay, well, no, I got you.
Okay.
You're more than I'd given you credit for, Potter.
All right, so maybe a little bit of old school Snape showing his face.
Yeah, it's like the gym teachers that I had in middle school. Anytime a fight would break out in gym class,
they let it go just a bit.
They'd let it go just a little bit, long enough that someone would learn a lesson.
I had a cousin once who got mugged by 3 people, 3 on 1. And they said, give us your money and your cigarettes. And he tossed him his wallet. I said, you're not getting my cigarettes, and whatever. They started, coming towards him. He's like, listen, I ain't going to the hospital alone. One of you is coming with me. So it's kind of the idea of how that works there. I do think it is interesting, though, because Snape does immediately show up and stitch old Draco up. And then he does, confront Harry and say, that's very dark magic. I didn't expect that from you, Potter.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting, because now we kind of get a little a dark streak in Harry going on here that we've never seen before. Because this would be
Well, but we have seen it before. We've always seen a little bit of it.
You think so?
Yeah, straight down to the first book where he's speaking parcel tongue.
Well,
right? You get little hints of it the whole time. The mischievous nature is not one that Gryffindor is known for.
Mischievous, yes, but this would be full-on dark arts magic. All the good characters throughout this series never really do anything but stun their enemies. They set their phasers to stun and disarm. This is the first time that we see an inherently good character physically attacking someone with a very powerful spell, honestly. And right before that, obviously, Draco does try to use one of the unforgivable curses on him, which, fair game at this point. You pull a gun, I'm going to pull a gun too.
Yeah.
So that is interesting. I find it ridiculous that for an attempted murder, you're going to come to detention on Saturday.
Well, but was it attempted murder? Like, we don't know exactly what that spell does.
It cuts. It's
cuts.
like the slash of a sword, just
Sure.
cuts Draco down. So, I mean, honestly, Harry didn't know how it was used.
Right.
He went in guns a-blazing and made a mistake. And so much so that it even puts him into a sense of shock where, Snape wanders in and says, wait there, and he's like, I didn't object. I stood.
If we might draw upon greater English culture,
Okay.
it sounds like Draco has but a flesh wound.
'Tis but a flesh wound.
Right.
'Tis but a flesh wound.
So, I mean, that's where you're bleeding from, right?
Okay.
Because it does not sound like gushing blood. It does not sound like dark blood. It
Well,
sounds like
it does say
flesh
like he
blood.
basically falls and like his face is entirely covered at that point. It's a split. It is the slash of a blade.
Well, I mean, you were a wrestling fan, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All those blood faces, what's that happen? It
Ric
happens from
Flair
a little,
just nicks that.
a little
Yep.
nick.
Yep, little nick. It is implied, and I do think the movie does this justice as well, because it does not only cut his face, but it slashes his whole body. And it is basically like taking a sword to the chest.
Yeah.
So it is implied that, Draco could have bled out very easily in the bathroom. So Snape does save the day in this aspect, and has the support of everyone, because naturally, everybody knows about this as soon as it happens.
It is, so I think that this might be getting back to some type of Christian mythology, though, as well, as the Christ met with the devil, and I believe it is Christian mythology that once cast out of heaven, Satan could not have even existed in the same place as God.
Okay.
Like God is all present, but to be directly there with God would have completely done away with Satan. So when we have something like Harry Potter using dark magic, we get little hints. So the Christ was the Son of Man, right? Christ had had human parts to him. He had the godly to him, but he also spent 3 days in hell.
Okay.
So we've got all of these things that Harry Potter is sort of ambiguously placed within his universe. He does toy with dark arts. He is obviously the savior. And I'm trying to think what that third one was. It doesn't matter because it's Harry Potter, but you often have, when you're speaking of the great hero, there is not just a hero, but the great hero. The great hero is often willing to do things and take things into his or her hands that others are not, right? So here, this involves toying with the dark arts.
Okay.
So the fusion of the good arts, what are the good arts called? The non-dark arts.
Magic.
Really?
Yeah, there's really no good arts.
There's no good arts.
No, there's just dark arts.
Okay, well, this fusion of good old boy magic and the dark arts suggests a moving towards one's individual herodom.
Okay. Well, sometimes you got to play dirty to get stuff done.
Sure, and if you remember, we read Beowulf in college.
Yes.
There's the famous line from Beowulf, I will fight the monster naked.
Yes.
And that does not mean without clothes on, it means without my sword. So that braggadocio, is a bit of tempting of the fates,
Okay.
right? And every time Harry Potter sneaks out with the cloak of invisibility on, it's a bit of the tempting of the fates,
Okay.
right? Things like that.
See where you're going with that. I would like to backtrack a little bit. We talked a lot about Slughorn and why he was so ashamed of this memory and everything. Now that it has been revealed, do you really see any fault of Slughorn here? Because I don't.
He was just breaking a rule.
I'm
Like
not.
the rule was that
It was banned. We weren't supposed to
Right.
acknowledge it. It was basically
it was censorship.
the young man comes in, maybe it's a literature class, and he says, hey, I know we can't read this particular Catcher in the Rye, but, what's it about?
Yeah.
It seems a little overdone that Slughorn would be so worried, and I can understand the guilt behind the idea that this is what happened, and Slughorn obviously knows this is what happened, but I really don't see anything wrong with Slughorn here. He took a young, bright student under his wing, and gave him more chances, more opportunities. I don't see anything wrong with that. He couldn't have known that this would be the outcome.
You also wanted to put Moldavort in charge of children.
I did.
But,
I did.
I somewhat agree. I think that anytime you are put in a position, so especially when you're talking about Diddley Door having had the chance to not accept Tom Riddle into the school.
Mm-hmm.
So once he's done so, and I assume, you have to assume, that Diddley Door had that conversation with all of the faculty.
Okay.
That they were filled in, hey, this kid's pretty powerful, but has a tendency towards bad thing, right? So once your headmaster signs off on that, you have to treat them with the potential that they have, more so than with the threat they may become, right?
Okay.
I think that anytime you're in education, you err towards the child or children you're teaching, the young adult or young adults that you're teaching, being capable of the good things more so than trying to censor out the bad things, because you see what that leads to.
Absolutely.
We have no reason to believe that had Slug Thing not told Moldavort about what Horcrux was, he would have found out somewhere.
I agree with you. And like I said, I honestly cannot fault Slughorn. At the time, he was just trying to help a student with some curiosity that showed promise. Sometimes the things that are the hardest to study are a little dark, maybe a little censored. And I could understand, the idea of playing with guilt. He felt guilty because this is obviously the path he had taken. But I really can't fault Slughorn here.
Yeah, and I like. Is this the first read through of this that you felt that way?
I think it's the first time that I honestly sat and thought about it to that degree. But I really don't see an issue here. I don't vilify Slughorn.
When was it that you realized you felt that way?
I probably reading through it this time once it was all revealed again.
Okay.
I mean, because you sit and think about it again. This is a critical reading as opposed to reading this when I was 16 for enjoyment.
Because it was about halfway through that next chapter that I was reading, and I was like, wait a minute. Did I just miss it? What is going on here? Why did Slug Thing feel bad? And I thought back, I had to think back through it, and I was like, oh, well, this is just drama for drama's sake.
Okay, yeah.
So it wasn't until, I didn't catch it until that next chapter.
Fun fact, on the nose, I was 15 when this came out.
Oh, yeah?
14, 15, so yeah.
On the nose. What
on
does
the
that
nose. Like I said, I was 16, this is a critical reading as opposed to reading it for enjoyment. But, I don't see an issue with it there. So before we finish off this week's episode of Harry Potter, any ideas, any predictions, where we're moving forward, what's going to happen, who the Half-Blood Prince is? Any wild guesses as we're rounding out the end here?
I think the Half-Blood Prince is Snape.
Okay.
I'm a little thrown off because I thought that the first time, if it was Snape, the first time he caught Harry Potter using Half-Blood Prince magic, it would have been this cumulative effect.
Okay.
But perhaps that is why he was just sort of simmered down from the Snape that we normally get when Harry Potter does something like
Playing
that.
it smooth.
Yeah. Especially because he does ask, where did you get that? Tell me where you got that. And it seems more, you get the little scene where Snape extracts the memory. And if this is how this is done, I will give J.K. credit for this. You got this little scene where Snape extracts the memory. And then he's basically just saying to Harry Potter, call me Daddy. Call me Daddy. And Harry Potter says, I don't know what you're talking about, right?
Okay.
He's basically saying, call me Daddy. Because where did you get this magic? When he knows, if it is him, he knows damn well where he got the magic.
Okay.
So he's basically saying, call me Daddy. And Harry Potter says, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Call me Daddy.
Got him back in the corner.
Go get that book, pal. Go get that book, boy. And he goes and he gets the other book. And then Snape calls him out because it's Ronald Whistler.
Yeah, it's because of that quick writing quill or whatever that Ron Weasley had. Yeah, his brothers gave him the autocorrect pin, basically.
Yeah,
I lost its effect.
I didn't catch that, but that would be interesting to me if it does turn out to be Snape.
Well, I would like to just leave it at that. You complimented a possibility of something that J.K. Rowling perhaps did.
Which tells me I'm right.
So, like, hey, we're just going to let this one go. So we will be back next week with more Adrian Reads Harry Potter. We're going to be getting very close to the end of Half-Blood Prince. We'll be reviewing chapters 25 and 26. We do this every single Wednesday. This is a Wednesday show, isn't it?
Yeah.
My brain's fried. We do this every single Wednesday, and we'll continue forward doing this every Wednesday until we're done with all 7 books. One more to go, and we're getting very close to finishing this one off.
Yeah.
It's going to be good times. So if you like this kind of thing, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and give this video a thumbs up as well. We always appreciate the thumbs up. And if you are so inclined to help us continue to create content like this, there is a link, as always, to our Patreon in the description below.